Hello, welcome to CoinBlog, and I'm your host Charles. Today we're going to be talking about ICOs, or initial coin offerings, and the recent news about China banning ICOs. So China recently announced to the world that it has banned the operation and use of ICOs within its jurisdiction. So what does this actually mean for the wider cryptocurrency community? Well, it actually means nothing. You see, saying that you're going to ban a group of people from partaking in or investing in an ICO or any other business for that matter is a little bit like saying you're going to turn off the internet to stop it from working. All it really means at the end of the day is that you're not going to see any more native, homegrown, indigenous ICOs coming out of mainland China. However, people within mainland China can obviously still invest in ICOs abroad, overseas. They could just use a VPN to overcome such barriers. Now, that's not to say that I'm against the Chinese authorities. I actually agree with them to some extent. You see, with ICOs, you're essentially giving your money over to an unregulated party. So the door's wide open for scams, really. So I think regulating that from the state level can only be a good thing in the long term. So what is an ICO? Well, an ICO has a lot of parallels with the stock market industry, specifically the IPO. Now, an IPO stands for an initial public offering, and all that is when a corporation or business opens its doors to the public and sells a share of its business to the public in exchange for equity. Similarly, an ICO exchanges a token or smart contract to us, the public, in exchange for Ether, Ethereum, or Bitcoin, or some other cryptocurrency, so they can fund their products, their projects and products, and we get their token, and we can also sell that at a future date if we so wish. So should you invest in an ICO? Well, I first want to mention, disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. So should you invest in an ICO? It really depends on your level of risk, because these are high risk, high reward assets. They're essentially a pre-sale. You're coming to the market and buying something before it goes onto the exchange, which is why you're taking on all the risk. So I believe there's 5 characteristics you should look for when putting your money down for an ICO. The first one is leadership. Ask yourself, has this ICO got a strong and charismatic leader? They can't just be strong, they've got to be charismatic. They've got to really make you think. You know, is this a Steve Jobs? Is this Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg? Or Amazon's Jeff Bezos, or a Tesla's Elon Musk? They really got to make you think. You know, they've got to know what they're doing, because they're the people who are going to drive this ICO forward within the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years plus. If they can't do that, then don't put your money down. The second thing you've got to look at is the community behind the ICO. Ask yourself this: is there hype in the community for this token, product, or smart contract? Look on Facebook, look on Reddit, look on Twitter, look on all the different social media platforms. If people aren't talking about it, then don't invest in it. The first thing you need to ask is, has it got a prototype or product? If it hasn't got a prototype or product, then you simply cannot invest in it. The risk is too great. Even if on paper it looks good, even if it's got a good leader, I would say, you shouldn't invest in it. So I'm probably cutting out maybe 80% of the ICOs, but I believe that you really have to minimize your risk as much as possible. The fourth factor is you need to ask yourself, what problem or pain point is the ICO seeking to solve? So for example, Dash, when they had their ICO a while back now, they sought to go above and beyond Bitcoin. They wanted to create a fluid and more amicable transference of cash for the consumer by creating digital cash, Dash. And they rewarded early adopters with masternodes. Then you've got something like Umise Go. They had their ICO just a few weeks back, I believe, and they sought to solve the problem of transferring fiat monies across borders within Southeast Asia, which is actually quite difficult at the moment. And by using blockchain technology, they are really kind of addressing a need, and they have a real use case for that product. And then I think the fifth and final question you need to ask yourself, and probably the most important actually, it's more like two questions, is market timing and market entry. With market timing, you need to look at the industry and the product that they're offering and say to yourself, how many competitors do they have? If they have a strong team and great branding, but 10 people are already doing the same or similar idea, then you can't expect to make a return on your investment, certainly not in the long term at least. It's just really not going to take off. It's not going to leave the ground really. Secondly, you need to ask yourself market entry, the market they're trying to get into. Does it actually does it have an infrastructure for their product or service that they're trying to create? So a good example here would be during the dot-com bubble of the late 90s, Pets.com. Pets.com sought to create an Amazon-style e-commerce platform where people could buy pet supplies and products. What they failed to realize was their consumers actually wanted their pet supplies and products on the same, they wanted same day or next day delivery. And of course, back then, the infrastructure for that just wasn't in place. Consequently, people just ended up buying their pet supplies from their nearest convenience store. And because of this, Pets.com just went down in a massive flop. It just collapsed. So I think you need to look at a lot of these ICOs and make sure they're not going to be the next Pets.com, because they could have the marketing, they could have the slick branding, and it could look good on paper. But if the infrastructure isn't there to really support and feed the development community for that ICO, it's not going to work. And that's the final point as well. Don't invest in something if that project can still work without blockchain technology. There's many great, fabulous projects out there, but if they could do the same thing without the blockchain, then they don't need your money. So thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts and views below, guys. And of course, if you like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. All the best.